I'm going to take you into high tunnel 1. Now this is the first high tunnel that we built. These are high tunnels are from Farm Tech. They're about 96 feet long, about 30 feet wide. On here you can see how high the snow is piled up on the outside of these sides here. These sides are 6 feet high. The peak up there is I want to say 12 to 14 feet high. Outside right now it's in the low teens. It's just barely above 10 degrees. My fingers are freezing right now. So let's go inside and take a look and see what it looks like inside here. These come with roll-up doors. As I get in here, I don't have to roll the door up. I can just lift up one side, kind of undo the hooks, and I'm able to come inside here. Hey, the way right now it's warm enough in here. The ground has not frozen. If you look here at this shovel, you can see that I can push this in the ground real easy. The dirt is not frozen in here. This is our winter garden. We grew just a little bit of stuff winter-wise this year. We've harvested a lot of it as it's now coming on to spring. But inside this particular high tunnel, I like to make little cells on here. These, I call them little cells, but there's 6 rows if you start counting them on here. The 2 outside rows are about 30 inches wide. The 4 inside rows are 4 feet wide on there. That's just because to make one of these little cells, I take 2 16-foot pieces of 2x6 lumber, just fir on here, and then I can get one 12-foot piece, and I can get 3. I use the 2 pieces for the outside on here, so I use 2 pieces for the outside. I take that 12-foot piece that I buy and I cut it into 3 lengths. So each one of these are 4 feet. So there's 1, 2, and 3 lengths. So I don't waste any wood. I use just 3 wood screws on each of these 3 cross braces on each side of that going across. So it takes about 18 3-inch wood screws to screw that together. But this provides me with cells that are 4 feet wide by 8 feet long. And in a 96-foot facility like this, I can have 12 of these cells in here per row. So on the 2 outer rows, each have 12. The 4 middle rows have 12. So that leaves you 6 times 12 gives you 72 cells. This gives you plenty of opportunity to plant different crops in each one of these 4x8 cells, and even to do multiple crops in these 4x8 cells. And they can also, we have a drip irrigation system in here that we can use as well as just these little hand sprinklers. So as the season progresses, if we're trying to get all the seeds started at once, we can use these little sprinklers to kind of sprinkle everything. But as the growing season gets started, if I need to water one cell more than the other, I have a water-loving plant like, say, tomatoes, I can plant more of those if I can water that more. Or if I have a dry-loving plant like my rosemary up there in the corner, I can hold off and not water that as much. Let me just walk down these rows and show you what we got going on here. I guess before I do that, though, I just want to say the reason that this is orientated east and west is because the sun, when it rises in the east, in the wintertime it rises more in the kind of the southeast section down there. And when it sets more in the southwest section on here. So that lets the sun hit all along this side and heat it up significantly. So right now, you saw the shirt that I'm wearing. It's a flannel shirt, but I have to take this. I'm sweating in here, so I have to take off that and just work in a t-shirt inside of this facility right now even with that much snow and it being that cold on the outside. Now, if these high tunnels are buttoned up, for example, you put the ends down, you have some little clips some little ropes where you hook them along on the outside where you keep the doors from flapping over. These corners here, if you try to show these corners are solid corners. These are roll-up sides. These sides will be able to roll up as it gets warmer, but we roll them down in the wintertime, and we put a little spring clip here in the side that kind of holds this together so it can't billow and blow out. So that keeps it pretty airtight in here. There's still air that comes in and blows, but it keeps the warmth in here. And the way that this warmth works, I get quite a few questions on how this high tunnel works as far as the warmth. Well, the ground in here doesn't freeze. Along the outside, like right here, okay, see, it's still not frozen even right here. You can see that shovel still will go in there. So even this is not frozen along the outsides. But the sun in here, as it comes in with the solar heat, it heats up the ground on here. So this ground stays warm. It never gets below freezing, the ground in here. I've never had the ground in here freeze. And it keeps a lot of moisture in here. I don't know how well you can see on the video, but there is condensation up here on the top of the high tunnel here. So as the day, during the daylight when it's shiny, it's nice and warm in here. Heats up the soil, the air gets warm. When the sun goes down, it starts to cool off. And now there becomes a fight, for lack of a better word, between the cold on the outside and the warm soil on the inside. The warm soil heat is coming up from the ground on the warm soil. And at the same time, from the outside, from the top here, you have the cold trying to force its way down through the top. And there's a constant battle going on between the heat rising and the cool trying to get in. The trick here, what we're trying to accomplish, is not to let the cold get down to the ground level. If it stays about 6 inches above it, it's okay, because the crops we grow in the winter typically don't get much higher than that. That condensation up on the roof of the building here has a vital role on there. In order, if you remember back to your high school chemistry, in order to change state between a liquid and a solid, it takes about 34 times more energy to change state from going from 32 degrees liquid to 32 degrees solid, forming ice, than it does to just change temperature 1 degree, say go from 33 to 32, or from 32 freezing to 31 degrees. And so that condensation helps insulate. As the cold air is trying to come in, it has to freeze that first before it can start penetrating down into the soil down here. And by the time it starts to freeze it, by the time the night goes by, for the most part, morning has arisen, has come, and it's now the sun's shining and it's starting to get warm and your plants are alive. So let's take a look at the plants that I have in here that we grew during the winter. Okay, these are parsley plants, and you can see some of the dead areas where it got frozen on there. But you can also see that even though there were portions of it that got frozen, there are portions of it here that are not frozen. And so if you like to cook with parsley, or if you just like to eat it, parsley is very high in vitamin A on there. I like to come out here and I just take a piece like this and I just take it and eat it. And I'll probably eat several of those throughout the day as I'm working out here, because I like it. If you take that and you're making an omelet, almost any dish you have, if you just took a little sprig of this, like this, and you just chopped it up, you have fresh parsley on here on your meals. It adds a lot of flavor. One of the advantages we have of doing the organic gardening, and I need to do some more videos on this a little bit later on, but one of the advantages that you have about doing organic gardening is you're not using synthetic chemicals, pesticides, or herbicides on there. And so you're relying upon the natural process on working with nature in the soil. Excuse me. Trying to build your soil so that you're able to provide all the nutrients for the plants that you need, and that natural growth, the development of the soil, the root hair, the ions and that you have in your soil that get uptake into the plants through the root hairs provide a tremendous amount of flavor versus just say a conventional garden. And so one of the things you'll have in here is very flavorful food. A lot flavorful by doing organic gardening than you will by conventional methods. These parsley plants are on their second year. Now, each year, some of these plants are going to go to seed. Some are 1 year plants, some are 2 year plants. The second year plants go to seed. Those seeds produce more. So I'll be able to harvest a little bit off of these plants here that you see in the spring, but in these bare spots that are here, I'll have to replace these bare spots with new seeds that are coming up. They have not started coming up yet, but there will be just a whole carpet full of new seeds coming up here. One thing I should point out, this side that you're looking at now is the north. We're looking east. The end of the building is east. The side of the building here is south. The side of this building here is north. The side of this building over here is south. This north side up here, the north half of the building, the north couple of rows, they stay cooler in the summertime on there. In these middle rows here, I'll plant things like tomatoes. That's what these strings are hanging down for. We plant indeterminate tomatoes. They will grow up to the top, up there as high as we can reach. We'll grow cucumbers in here. But just the way this is orientated, this north side stays cooler. The south side over there is going to stay warmer. So I tend to put more warm-loving plants over on the south side, and I tend to put the cooler-loving plants over here. So now that's just as a general rule. I don't follow that 100% of the time, but typically things like lettuce and spinach and whatnot will be planted over here. Over there I'll plant more peppers and herbs, just anything that's warm-loving over there. But I do mix them. And here's some things where I did some intercropping on here. So right here, these are green onions. On here, these are purple green onions. And so these onions, these green onions here, we planted last fall. As I need these onions to eat throughout the winter, I come out and I pick these out. Now they have a little bit of green, not a whole bunch on there, but you still get that little bit of a green. You peel back the dead part of this, peel back this, you're still going to get a nice fresh onion, and you're going to get onion greens. These little plants, I planted those in the center. On the outside here, this is cilantro. I love the cilantro on here, but man, you just want some fresh tacos. Anything else you want to put that in, you come out here, you pick some of those cilantro. They're not big. These will get a lot bigger in the springtime and in the wintertime, but still, you can come out here, you clip those nice fresh little cilantro leaves off, and it is just awesome being able to have that fresh cilantro with your meals on here. Now, one thing I should have pointed out too from the beginning, I got these walkways between here. I made these walkways about the size of a rake. on here. So if I walk over here to one of my rakes in here, about 14 to 18 inches is all the bigger you need these. You don't need these bigger to walk with, but see, it's just a rake. So as time goes on, and I want to kind of keep this nice and clean and neat looking, I just made it the width of a rake. It's easy for me to sit in here. I can, if I'm coming in here and I need to work, harvest, or plant, I can just come right in here and I can just kneel down on these pieces of wood, easily reach over. On here, like I said, these are just 4 feet, so if you're working on this side and you want to reach over, if you're kneeling down here, you just need to, it's just a very comfortable reach to reach halfway over. So you can pick what's on this side and go on the other side and pick what's on the other side. Typically on here you can see I have this is a passion fruit plant, but this is in the middle. So I will typically plant plants in the middle of a row, like tomatoes. I can put 4 tomato plants in each cell, put them about 2 feet apart. And then on each side of the tomato plant, I can plant something else on there. Just a small row of something. Or I can have the whole thing covered and say Chinese cabbage or carrots or spinach. I can do broccoli, cauliflower, anything you can plant in here. Now this is warm enough. Right now, today's date is it's about the 18th of February, 18th or 19th. That's kind of one of the advantages of being retired, I guess. You don't remember what day it is. So it's around the 18th, 19th of February. It's a Tuesday. Still lots of snow out here, but I'll be coming in here, cleaning this up a little bit better, and and starting to plant things in here. I'll start to plant pea seeds. I'll put some kale, put some broccoli, maybe some cauliflower, spinach out here. The tomatoes I'll start planting out here. I'll put in wells of water. We'll show you this all as we go along. This is just our winter garden. Hey, right here, this is kale. This is a winter boar kale, the kind of crinkly leaf kale. And you can see where some of the leaves got damaged, but you can also see that there's lots of good young kale in here. I just take this kale. I just take the kale like this. I don't have any bugs on it. If you look at it, there's no aphids are on this, no bugs in here. You just take it and eat it. It's very, very flavorful. A lot more flavorful than you'll buy in the store. Got just a little bit left of scarlet kale. We planted both scarlet and red boar kale on here. These just, are more for looks. I'm not certain if there's any nutritional value between the two of them, but look-wise, they look awesome in salads. They look awesome just to eat. So again, I came out here, I picked it. I don't need to wash it. I don't need to. This is. It's above the ground. It's pretty clean. I don't know. I guess I live up in the mountains on a ranch. I guess I'm not too worried about getting a little bit of dirt, but yeah, it's just really, really good, really flavorful. And over here, I have some leeks. These are leeks that I wintered over. I plant these leeks. I've used most of the leeks in these beds here. This is basically what I have left over. I like to make that potato leek soup. I come out here, grab about 3 or 4 leeks, depending on the size. I use some potatoes that we grew. I take about a pound of bacon on there and put those all in. I use some cream, some whipping cream, and some chicken broth as my base, so to speak, for the soup, and mix all that together, and you get some potato leek slash bacon soup. It's really good in the wintertime. For me, I'm not too big on eating soups in the summertime, but the wintertime, it's really nice. And what really makes it fun for me is I can come out here, I can grab some of the leeks fresh out of the garden. I grab them within minutes. I've taken them in the house, cleaned them up, and I have fresh leeks. I also use the potatoes that we had harvested and stored for the winter. Now these leeks here, I'm going to dig one of these up on here and show you how deep they are. Let's dig one of these up. You know, I try to plant these as deep as I can to get more white on my leek. What I really want to get is about 12 inches of white. A lot of times I have a hard time getting that much white. So I have to do a better job at doing it. I'm doing some things different this year in order to plant them and make sure I get them big enough and they go deep enough, and so I can get more and more white. But I also use the part of the leek that is not white. I will also use some of this stem. But anyway, here's the leek plant on here. I'll use up to about where my hand is, so I'll use about 12 inches of it and peel these outer layers away, and if I have to peel some of the outer skin away to get to more white, I will. This next little area, this is something we grow year round. It is just a very nice treat to have, and that's the spinach. This, in the cold weather, it doesn't bolt. Again, you can see some of the areas where I get some dead leaves, but this is an area that I cut not too long ago, about a few weeks ago. This is where I cut my last batch of spinach that we used. When I come out and cut this, I just come out, pull it up like this. I just take some scissors, cut the whole thing, and put it in a bag, and then you take it inside and clean it. But then you have these little pieces of spinach leaf on here that you just come out, you pick those, you take them in, you wash them. You can use them for salads, for omelets, for anything, any dish you want. It's really nice to have fresh spinach, fresh salad, and you can do this all year long on here. This year I only grew one 4x8 cell of spinach, so you can kind of see what is there that I grew this year and used during the winter. But it is really nice to be able to have this fresh spinach anytime you want it, all winter long. And again, I can't overestimate this part, but you know, just the flavor with these, it's just unfrickin' believable how flavorful this spinach is. What you're buying in the store that you're getting it just does not have any flavor compared to what you can grow for yourself. This next little area, this is I can never pronounce this right. Arugula. I always want to say agula, but I think it's arugula on there. This is something that is just really nice it'll grow all winter long. It is something that it's a nice peppery flavored plant. I took another bite of that. I don't need to show you me eating it. This will grow all winter long out here. You can have as much as you want. in the last fall garden, if you look at this, this is what I was trying to tell you, how you plant this in sections. Even though this is a 4x8 cell, on this side over here, I planted arugula. Forgive me if I don't pronounce it right. The way I pronounce it or spell it and the way the dictionary pronounces or spells it may be different. Along the middle, I would have planted some things like over here. In this case, it was last year, it was cucumbers that were right here. So cucumbers were right here. I had in a 4x16 foot field fence that was held up by some T-posts. And so we grew the cucumbers vertically on there. So they grew straight up, just a little, maybe 6-inch wide section there. And then on the other side, we had some other stuff planted over there. So actually, in this little cell here, I had 3 things planted. I had arugula on the south side. I had tomatoes in the middle, and I had some other crop. I can't remember what over there on that particular side of it. I don't know. This is something that I have really enjoyed. These are all volunteer plants. You can see them, they're in my walkway. I need to clean them out. They're over here. I started buying some Clatonia several years ago. This is just little, these things get little flowers on them that look like little lily pads, but this is edible also. This is a salad. This is for your salads. But it's a sweet tasting mix on here that we add with our salad blends that we make here, and it comes back each year. I also have some seeds that I plant, but I'm not going to have to really use that many seeds. I'm going to just be able to come over here, take up these plants that have already started growing. You can see them different places along here, and I'm just going to be able to transplant those and start using those. And we make up to 22 blends of different types of greens and lettuce in our salads. So we'll take a little bit of this. We'll have several other little sections of these greens or baby lettuce that we'll use. We'll pick certain amounts of those. We'll put them together and have a nice salad, a nice green salad. And just trying to show you these little greens. You really do eat these. These really are nice, sweet, flavorful things. Now, excuse me for eating those if that kind of bothers some of you, but I just wanted to show you that you really do eat them. Here again are just another little batch of green onions. These are just the normal onions. I shouldn't say normal green onions, but these are evergreen or white spear is what we plant. Here's some radicals. Now I did not come out and get these. So these are. It's got that a little bit more dirtier than I wanted as I was picking it. But this, if you take and you kind of peel back the leaves that are damaged by the cold, you're going to get a little nice little button head thing here of radical. And I'm probably not pronouncing that right either, but you cut this up, you use this into salads. It kind of has a little bit of a bitter taste to it. But again, it's something nice and fresh that you can take out of your garden in the middle of the winter time. Now, you saw when I first picked it, that's what it looked like. The outer layers have gotten dead, but when you go take the outer layers, you got a nice little meal there for making a salad, adding that with some other things. Down here in this area here, if you can see that a little bit, these are some garlic that's starting to come up. I planted these last fall. they winter over in here. They start to come, since it's warm, they start to come up a lot earlier than the garlic that I planted outside on there. So I'm able to get garlic, you know, just a little bit fresher in the year. Outside garlic is going to come on about the July time frame, middle of July. This may come on sometime near the middle or end of June. It gets just, you know, it jump starts it by a month or more. This cell over here, I tried to put this in a corner because I was just getting too many of these types of plants, but this is dill. This is a banquet dill, I believe is the cultivar we planted, but you know, if you don't catch this right off the bat, if you don't catch this before it matures, you know, then you get a lot of seeds, and those seeds just come back thick as can be on here. And these are just some of the seeds that have started right now. These, I don't know if you can see, if it makes it that clear in the ground you can see, but there are seeds all over on this ground in here. And so I will take these, I'll try to thin them out a little bit, and just use what I need or what I can sell. One little thing that I do also that I should mention here is around the edges, around the border of my high tunnel, I like to plant garlic. Now sometimes I don't harvest all the bulbs, but I like to kind of make a row of garlic along the outside of the high tunnel. I know there's a little bit of controversy whether things like garlic and onions, and when you do companion planting, if they help keep insects away, but I plant it along there. I really don't have any insects in here. I have very few at times. So I think that kind of helps on there. But see, here's a bulb that I forgot. And you can see it's sending up multiple shoots. Here's one that's kind of more on the surface. I forgot to get that out, so what I'll do is I'll take those little bulbs that are starting, those garlic bulbs, and I'll come in different places along the edge here. I'll take and I'll plant those, and then I'll use the garlic. This cell right here is horseradish. Now I had 4 plants in here. I've started to kind of mulch up some of the stuff, but with this dead, one of the key things in the organic gardening, trying to get the nutrients that you need, is, you know, you have your compost, manures, your on there that you can use, and your green manures are 3 things, but you need a lot of organic material back in your soil. One thing that I'll talk about in some future videos is the ratio between your carbon and nitrogen. On there, you're basically the bacteria that breaks down your organic material. It eats 25 parts of carbon for every 1 part of nitrogen. And so you need to be careful of just throwing things like dry leaves and kind of dry straw, brown straw on your garden, because that has a lot of carbon in it, and unless you're adding some nitrogen to the soil, then your bacteria breaking down, making compost, breaking down your organic material to make compost, it's going to use up all the nitrogen within your soil. And so typically you'll take this leftover plant residue material, and see, we cleaned most of this out. If you look at this, there's hardly any, other than our winter garden, there's hardly any plant residue material in here. We will take this out, we'll go put it in our compost pile, and then we'll reuse it later. But some of these plants, I don't necessarily do that 100% of the time. This was green. It has the winter kill. This is horseradish. So I want the roots to stay there. I have the roots, and you can see the new stalks of horseradish coming up. I have not harvested that and made my own horseradish yet. But I'll take this stuff, and just with my hands, with what I can, I'll kind of try to crunch this up and try to get, you can see some little flakes and stuff coming down. So I'll try to crunch it up, leave the little flaky crunches here. This was green and it did have a lot of nitrogen in it. It's just turned brownish now. But I'll use that for the organic material in here. I'll take out some of the big stems and leaves that have not broken down, and I'll go throw those out in my compost pile, and that'll probably get used up. And if I've had another year, I'll use that for compost. Another vegetable we used here for our winter garden, these are beets. These particular beets are touchstone beets. Now, these are golden beets. These beets are really good. These are our younger beets. They aren't that, shouldn't say younger, but they're smaller beets. They don't grow that much in the winter, but you get a nice little beet that you can use. If you want to pull some of the outside layers of this across, you can use that as some fresh beet greens too. Over here I got just a red beet, just a typical red beet. Try to get a good one here, but again, these are beets. This is about the size of it. You can see in my hand. Typically, these types of beets, you can dig down in here and you can try to get out the fresh greens that are inside of there. Typically on my winter beets, ones that I winter over, I typically don't eat a lot of the green portion of the beet. I'll typically cut that up, just cut this beet up into little sections here and eat that. But again, you got a fresh beet, more fresh vegetables in the winter, so you can, if you have one of these high tunnels, a little grow box that you can do this next to your house, you can be growing vegetables all winter long for you. The quality's not the same as in the winter time, as in the summertime, but man, the flavor, the cold adds tremendous amount of flavor. These next plants here, and I need to trim these up a little bit, these are my lavender plants. Now these are culinary lavender. So I have different types of culinary lavender. This is Melissa, Bona Vista, and I want to say Fulgate here. I got to go look back in my notes. What I like to do with, now this is culinary lavender, so it's better to eat or to use as flavoring for food than it is for the oils. I have some other lavender that's better used for oils and more scented on here. But these, if you were using this, you can see this new growth here. You would take this new growth off of here. And remember, I showed you what it looks like outside here. It's about 10 degrees outside or less. Next couple of nights, it's supposed to get down into the single digits, down around 5 degrees. To kill some of this stuff in here, it has to get down to about 0 degrees outside before some of this stuff will get killed. So this lives all the way through the winter. But if you were using this, if you know how to use rosemary, you would come in here, you would pick a sprig of this off, and you would just use it like you would rosemary in your cooking. If you're cooking things like a roast, beef roast, pork roast, chicken, turkeys, come out here, you grab some of these sprigs of lavender. And remember, it has to be the culinary lavender, not the lavender that's used for oil. And it adds a significant flavor to what you do. I mean, you can even put that in and make lavender flavored lemonade. So there's a lot of uses for that. This is, you can see some more Clatonia. This is where I actually had it planted last year. It was right here. So you can see all the little fresh starts of it that are coming up, but you can, even 2 rows away, you can see those. I don't know how the seeds travel that far, maybe, I don't know, but it spreads really good. So I'll use what I can for for my salads and the rest, it's a weed. This is something that's really nice right here, and let's see if I can get a good one out of here. I've been out here digging these up. These are carrots. So if you plant these carrots in the fall, typically I think you want to have them planted a few months, a month or so before it goes cold. They aren't going to grow too much in the winter time. They'll grow a little bit, but they'll sure stay fresh out here in the ground. And then again, anytime you want a carrot, you need a carrot for your cooking, for some soups, for something, you run out here to your high tunnel, grab some of these carrots, and as if by magic, they're growing here. These next several I'm going to show you are my herbs. Now this is oregano. I've torn up some of the older plants on here. I've taken my cuttings. There are some still live, but most of these are older plants that I've dug up on here. There are some seeds still left on some of these plants. So the seeds will probably, I'll come out here and I'll rub those seeds into the ground. I'll get, some of these will regrow here, this oregano, but I also took cuttings so that I can have enough cuttings here for next year. I have cuttings that I took inside that I'm growing the plants inside so I can propagate it without growing it. This is thyme, or thyme again. Excuse my pronunciation. I've also already taken cuttings. These are just volunteer thyme. It spreads like a weed too. But you can take any of this, any of these little plants. I'll take these. Some of these I'll actually come out and cut and use for my dry it, use to sprinkle on food, or else use it fresh. This. Most of you have probably used thyme in the store, the powder, and use it with poultry or some other stuff. And I can guarantee you grow your own thyme, it is a lot better than you're going to buy powdered in the store. On here, it adds a tremendous amount of flavor. You take just a little pinch between your thumb and forefinger and sprinkle it on some eggs, and they're just out of this world. Over here is some sage. I'll come back in as we're getting ready in this fall. We'll come back for this spring. We'll come back in. We'll take out all the old plants on here. This has just some new growth. There's just some new growth on that plant there, but I'll take out the old growth, cut these back, and they'll send out nice new little shoots of plants, and I can use my sage. This is rosemary. This is another plant we use all winter long. Now, I like rosemary, so I have 2 cells of it. Typically on these cells are 4 by 8. I'll have 3 plants wide in here, and about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 plants. So each plant will take up about a square foot or more on here. I come in and I cut this back. Some of these will live out here. Some of them are going to experience winter kill, but last fall I came out and I took my cuttings off of this. As fall comes around and as we show this, I'll show you, but you basically, you come in, you take out a piece of growth that's about like this. You peel. All you need to do really is you just need to peel one little portion back. So you can see I took my fingernail and I just kind of peeled that out or layer off like that. You only really need it on one side. You don't want to take it down too far to the woody part. Just get that, little tiny outer bark off. That green, let's say cambium layer is the area that the roots are going to come out. And then you would just take this and you'd either dip this in a rooting gel or a rooting powder and then stick it inside your pot, or you can stick it inside just a glass of water and watch for the roots to come out, but you've got to be changing the water regularly so the roots can get some oxygen. Or if you have a cloner, some type of a plant mister, if you have that, you can do that. But I think the easiest way for the average person is to just take a bunch of these cuttings, go stick them in put them in the rooting gel or powder, then just in your home inside of a pot, you dig a little hole like that with your finger, you put it in there, you go like that, and you just keep it watered. And most of them, shouldn't say most of them, but some of them will start to, depend on how well you did it, some of them will start to regrow. And so now you've made a clone of your original rosemary plant, so you don't have to keep buying it. And again, I use this just on everything. You take some fresh sprigs like this. This all needs to be cut back, but you take some fresh sprigs of this around Thanksgiving, put those in with your turkey or other things you're cooking, and it just adds a tremendous amount of flavor. One last thing I'll show you over here. This is Swiss chard. Now, I've cut this back, and since I've cut it back, it hasn't grown too much back on here, but this is like the spinach, whatnot. You get little pieces of the Swiss chard in the middle of the plant. This is what you come out and use. You're not going to get great big huge leaves, but you're going to get little tender baby leaves like this that are bite size. Probably aren't going to be much more than 3 inches long on there at the most, but they are just tremendous as far as flavor wise. That does it for high tunnel number 1. Another video I'll show you high tunnel number 2, but this is our winter garden. We've cleaned out most everything in here, but we left some of the crops that we use mostly, the kale, the leeks, the onions, the spinach on there, the Swiss chard, the beets, the carrots, the arugula, all of that stuff in here that we use on a regular basis will keep growing throughout the winter. And then over the course of the next week, as we start to replant these on here, we'll have to dig all of those old winter garden stuff out and start fresh on here. So let me walk back outside and just show you once again. This is what it looks like in here. But as you go outside, it's cold. It's cold. There's lots of snow. It's no fun. The guys out here aren't even average person looking at these fields here. These are outside fields. There's the elk saying hi to you. These outside fields out here, you can see the amount of snow. They aren't even close to being ready to plant out here. These are some of our outside fields. You'll see some contrast of here in the winter versus now. But it's fun for those of you who like to garden, like to do this. This is about the middle of February. We're already getting ready, starting, planting stuff out here. Once again, thanks for joining me on here. Appreciate your support on the channel. Looking at that, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to email me, ask me about it, put some comments down below. Again, thank you for your time.